Hello everybody out there, and welcome to the TowerDiveTV Weekly Tournament number 34. Gonna get a great day together of this tournament, so I am Azaraki Dragon, and here casting with me today is Saki Mans.
Hey guys, I'm back.
How does it feel to be back, by the way? I know you're gone for quite a while.
I'm kind of happy about it. I'm ready to cast some real games, have some fun interactions with some fans, and you know, just scream my head off. My voice has been uninjured too long. My voice must be punished.
Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the teams we have this week.
I'd like a link to the brackets too, if you have it.
Yes, I do. So we have teams coming back like Team Catastrophe. I know they come quite a few times. And who else do we have over here? Team New York is back. We also have Compound Gaming. I believe they were here before.
I think Half Past Infinity has been here before. I believe. I'm not sure if they made it very far, but I think they were here.
Actually, see as many of our big regulars back. Like we don't see Tiny Pudge or anything like that. They usually come out to these tournaments, but it's a great chance to look at some new teams. Make sure we get some new blood in on the tournament.
Yeah, and it's also like the summer, so people could just be, gone. It happens.
Oh, I didn't see this on my last run through, but Breaking Challenger is back, and they actually won last week. So we're gonna see if anyone can dethrone them, or see if they can go ahead and win the tournament once again.
I love these dethroning matches. Just like that. That's why it was so entertaining to see people like Tiny Pudge and Salad Chicks enter every week. Because every week we'd see someone try to dethrone the other, or to best the other person. It was always like a test of just a test of skill.
Yeah, for a few weeks there, we also had I think the finals two weeks in a row were Tiny Pudge versus Ponytail. And that was quite fun. You know, you had the returning champion, and I believe Tiny Pudge might have won those, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's always nice to see those big grudge masters there as well. So, getting into the first couple games, what do you think are going to be some of the big bans we see? Obviously, Thresh is going to be a ban for quite a while.
The Thresh Prince.
Yeah, he's just such a good champion right now. One of the biggest playmakers in the support role. It's him and Leona, and between him and Leona, he's got a little bit more in terms of his kit, a little bit more. Leona's ultimate can change fights just as well as Thresh's can, but Thresh has a much better initiate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I honestly think it's not even so much his ultimate that makes, like, it's every single skill he has, but yeah. I think one of his most impactful skills is his lantern. Like, that lantern just opts for so much. Like, I've seen people toss it over and pull fiddlesticks that are ulting. Like, a fiddlesticks will ult from, their tower, out of vision, into range, click the Thresh lantern, and get pulled directly into the middle. That not only forgoes a flash, but if they flash out of the way, you can still stay in there. Like, normally you see fiddlesticks having to like flash in and do things like that before they are in the range and people can still flash out. But that it's just such an amazing playmaker. But as far as other bans, I'm not quite sure what we're gonna see. Just standard picks. People are always going to hate on globals like Shen and maybe Twisted Fate or Karthus even. It's more of a stretch. Really good at team fighters like a Mumu. Because Curse of the Sad Bullet Time's almost pretty much been banned out to the point where we can't do it anymore.
And going back to the, you mentioned a Fiddlesticks, and he's actually been starting to see a little bit more play recently, although you're probably not going to see him in the same game with Thresh, as people have been starting to play more towards the support Fiddlesticks instead. And support Fiddlesticks, he's got a really good kit to help catch people out. Like, if the enemy AD carry or if the enemy support step out of position, then Fiddlesticks can capitalize on that extremely easily with a fear, and as soon as the fear wears off, you can hit them with the silence so that they can't even flash away, and it's a great combination on Fiddlesticks. Now, the only problem with Fiddlesticks is that if they don't make those mistakes, then you're very limited as a support. If if your enemy lane in the bot lane is playing really well, then you're going to have to rely on maxing Dark Wind for poke. And at that point, your fear is only going to be 1 or 2 seconds, or I think it's 1.25 or something seconds on the fear at level 1, so you're not really going to have all that much power when it comes to the CC, so it's really a risk when you do run a Fiddlesticks bot lane, and on top of that, he can get poked down pretty easily, he can get bursted down when he does initiate, so you gotta be careful as a support Fiddles.
Yeah, well, we do have some nice sportsmanship coming out, but we are now going into the picks and ban phases of the first match of TowerDiveTV's tournament number 34. Are you excited? And it's pretty strange first ban, I'll be honest.
Yeah, Sejuani is a pretty nice ban, I'd have to say. Like, she's actually been coming more and more into favor recently, especially after the Freljord patch, because it just makes her CC that much more viable. You know, before she could dash in, but then she would have no CC on the dash. She would have to, say, use Permafrost in order to get down some of the CC, or even use her ultimate. At this point, the first person she hits with the charge will be knocked up, and that's a great source of CC for her in terms of these early game ganks, and that's sort of where Jarvan comes in as well, where the purple team banned Jarvan. He's got the same thing, where if you put down a Demacian standard and lance to it, then you can knock up everyone along the way. So it's a gap closer as well as a knock-up, and that's what both Sejuani and Jarvan have in common. So they're really nice early game junglers, and even in the late game, both of their ultimates really, really great at initiating, really good for CC and turning around fights. So those two champions are extremely powerful.
Yeah, and we do see the next two bans. Kennen, obviously, very, very strong team fighter, has started to see a resurgence from his... He was pretty popular early Season 2, but he's starting to see much of more of a resurgence now. People are realizing, hey, he's still really good at team fights. His ult is still really strong, so you should continue to play him. And we're also seeing Kha'Zix, Elise, and there's the Thresh ban.
Yeah, I was expecting the Thresh. Purple team does not have first pick. They can't secure the Thresh and give it to someone else on the team. They can't take it and give it to the support, so they're going to have to ban it out. And the blue team, I think they were trying to bait out that ban, because without banning Thresh in your first 3 bans, you're basically saying, alright, it's up to you guys to ban Thresh. If you don't ban him, then we take him. So they're basically forcing purple team to ban Thresh at that point, and that really reduces the number of bans they technically have, because they're forced to ban Thresh. That ban could go towards another extremely strong champion. Like, even Caitlyn would actually deserve a ban at this point, because she's such an amazing early game laner. She can shut down a lot of lanes, and we might actually see a Caitlyn pick against Vayne if this keeps happening, and we already see Blitzcrank, and it's odd to pick Vayne in against Blitzcrank, because, as we know, she doesn't really have the greatest early game power. She really needs a support to help her out with that.
That would be one of them.
Yeah, Janna is going to be one that helps Vayne quite a bit, and we're going to be able to see Janna, protect Vayne from Blitzcrank, make sure she hits those on-par tornadoes, but it looks like they might not actually be locking those in. So let's go ahead and talk about the Blitzcrank for a second. Now, you banned Thresh, but Blitzcrank also has some pretty nasty pulls on him as well. The pulls are certainly faster, but he doesn't have as much CC on his overall kit as Thresh does, so he doesn't constitute for a ban quite as heavily as Thresh does, but he can still make some great action happen in the bot lane and the rest of the game.
He is a little more iffy early game too, since they nerfed his rocket grab. He's very, very, like if you miss a grab, it's a big deal. But he is essentially like a pseudo Thresh, even better in a lot of ways. And his I'd say his initiation is just as strong as Thresh. And he can, just completely pull someone right out of position and pretty much net a kill. When you blitz grab in the late game, as long as you have 1 or 2 members, it pretty much nets a kill, unless, a very, very nice flash or something, really good is expended to get you out of that position. But we are going to see that MF is locked in as that bot. So we do see the bot lane for the blue team, and I think it's a pretty strong one if they can land those blitz grabs.
Misfortune is certainly not a champion that you want to get near, especially when level 6 happens. We're basically seeing Blitzcrank. If he can land a pull, you can be rest assured there's going to be a knock-up after that, an ultimate from Blitzcrank, silence, basically making sure that their AD carry can't dash, or whoever he pulls can't dash, can't flash. can't do any of that stuff. And while that entire thing is going on, Miss Fortune's going to have a bullet time waiting for you. So at level 6, we're going to see some pretty heavy initiation from the blue team in terms of the bot lane. We'll have to see what the purple team actually ends up picking to combat this. At this point, they really do sort of want a safe position heavy champion. I can really see an Ezreal pick here because Ezreal can easily dodge a lot of Blitzcrank hooks and he can put out a lot of his own poke. And that's one of the biggest things that beats Blitzcrank in lane is a lot of poke, because if you can basically take him down to less than 200 health, then he's going to be really a lot less inclined to actually grab you in the first place. Because say Blitzcrank, 200 health, he lands a grab, well, Ezreal's pulled in, but Ezreal has so much burst damage that he can basically, take down Blitzcrank extremely quickly right there in the first place, and then just arcane shift out of there. So poke is certainly something that works well against Blitzcrank.
We might have had a DC there, or they just waited to the last minute. I'm not sure, but Diana, not the weakest pick. It was locked in. But it was at the very last minute, so if they did end up picking that up, it would have... it's not a bad pick, especially for the team they have so far. She does have that pseudo Orianna ult attached to her, able to pull champions in, which would work well with Vlad, as well as a tornado from Janna, or just the slow from Nautilus. So they do have a nice team. They could, use a little bit more AD in their comp right there. But, they might end up with a heavy hitting AD carry. We don't know yet. And right now, it looks like the blue team hovering over some global pressure here. If they do lock those two champions in, they're definitely going to be able to give help to top or bot lane whenever they want. You have the Nocturne, obviously has his paranoia for great ganks, and Lux, she doesn't need to step too far down the lane, maybe halfway to the lane, just to put a little more damage with the laser, and sometimes that's all you need. And it looks like we are going to see a little bit more of a safer AD carry to deal with that Blitzcrank misfortune.
Yeah, and on top of that, Caitlyn herself does have a lot of poke, and so she's going to be able to poke down Blitzcrank fairly well, make it so that he doesn't want to grab people, because even when he does grab someone, if he grabs Caitlyn, for instance, Janna is the perfect support to basically get her out of there. There are so many things that Janna can do between tornado shields as well as her ultimate to basically force a disengage on whatever pull Blitzcrank lands. So that's a really strong aspect of Janna's support that we might be seeing here as well. So, running down the team comps, once again we have the blue team on Blitzcrank, Misfortune, Jace, Nocturne, and Lux, whereas the purple team's going for Janna, Caitlyn, Nocturne is on the other team, Nautilus, Vladimir, as well as Diana. So
we're playing one of those decision matches with OGN.
Yeah,
blind pick.
Pretty great team comps all around. The purple team, they're looking more towards the big AoE team fights with Janna. And even though Janna has sort of a disengage on her ultimate, she can disengage a fight, and then the rest of her team can re-engage it just as easily. So that's something maybe we see, Blitzcrank try to pull someone in, and then Janna completely wipes the floor and pops some of those big ultimates like Bullet Time. If Bullet Time is popped, then the purple team is ahead in the next fight, so they can disengage that way as well. And on top of that, we just have Nautilus, big CC machine on him. Vladimir able to amplify the rest of the damage that his team does in team fights with his ultimate, and we also have Diana, who's going to be right in the middle of them, CCing them as well. So purple team really heavy CC. Caitlyn AD carry, so that's not going to be as effective as a late game Misfortune, but she can still put out quite a bit of damage herself. And what we're really going to see from Caitlyn is the early game pressure from her. Meanwhile, on the blue team, they're looking more towards a straight up team fight comp where we have Nocturne just going to go into the line and basically CC whoever he can. And we also have a little bit of poke on not only Misfortune, Jace, and not only Misfortune, but also Jace and Lux. And they're going to have a lot of poke on their team as well. So the blue team looks like they're going for both poke and heavy initiate. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams play out. The purple team, they're really going to want to save Janna's ultimate for a good time where they can make sure they pop at least one or two ults.
I still can see, blue team sieging towers here, especially if they had taken that Caitlyn, but Misfortune definitely a better pick for that early game dominance that comes with a Blitzcrank lane. Puts out a little bit more just upfront damage than Caitlyn does, and it's a little less skill shot oriented too, so there's less opportunity to be flashed or to juke it. So There is that, and also I really, really like what the blue team did here. They have a teleport on Jace, they have that Nocturne ult, and they have someone with a laser, a very, very long-reaching ultimate. They have the Lux laser, and they could potentially do a 5-man gank bot lane at any time they want. That is, like, if we end up seeing that, that is going to be impressive. I mean, we do see a teleport coming out from Diana, but and I mean, for all we know, Lux could be top. Who knows? But probably not. I'm just assuming Lux is mid. But we do have a teleport on Diana, who, I'd have to say is probably going mid. They could send Vlad mid. Vlad is a decent mid, but we usually see him in the top lane, so they could do something like that and make it slightly easier to counter this strat. If they did send Vlad mid, Diana could teleport in from top lane. But it's going to be really impressive, and it's definitely going to give them the edge if they want to force something bot lane. So even though Caitlyn does have a lot of lane dominance, and they can, dodge blitz hooks and outrange Misfortune and poke them back, they still have to be careful about seeing 5 people suddenly show up at their doorstep.
Yeah, it's going to be something that they really want to watch out for quite a bit. So, 19 seconds until we get into this game, so we have a possibility for an invade for the blue team. They have some really great level 1 CC with the Blitzcrank Hook as well as Lux's Snare, but at the same hand, they're going up against also a high damaging early game. So I think we're just going to see both teams lay it low, stay in their own jungle, and maybe try something out there. Although we could see maybe a delayed invade where basically people go in as the jungler is taking blue, and that's one that is a little bit riskier, but at the same time, it's riskier because at that point you don't get to your lanes nearly as quickly as you normally would, so you'd miss out on a little bit of CC or CS, and you'll also miss out on a little bit of lane experience, but you would also have a chance at killing the enemy jungler and taking his blue, so that's something that could be very possible. We'll just have to see what they go, and it looks like we are in the loading screen. Time for the skin war.
Skin war? Well, I definitely have to think it goes to the blue team right here.
Oh yeah.
Blue team taking a big lead right there. And they definitely have a lot of advantage there. They have, I think, if Nocturne had a skin, they'd have full skins. And I mean, purple team does have one skin. I actually don't know this Diana skin. Did it come out recently, or was it like a revamped one?
I think it's came out recently, yeah.
Okay, well, it doesn't look bad. Not a bad skin.
I think it looks better in game, but I can't quite recall right now. But let's go ahead. The summoner spells are fairly normal. The only differences we have, you already touched on, with Jace and Diana taking Teleport. And Teleport is really a summoner spell that, you take every now and again. It's not the best summoner spell in the game. It's not a summoner spell that you must take on certain champs or always take or anything like that. But it's also not a summoner spell which is completely phased out and people don't use it at all. It's got its moments, and there are certainly times where you can use it. Very powerful summoner spell.
Yeah, and it looks like Vlad is almost in this game. We will be shot right into this game. Oh, never mind. Misfortune has a way to go. But we do see very standard summoner spells other than the teleports. You are right about that. Junglers taking, Smite Flash. No aggressive exhaust going down on the Nocturne, which we see sometimes. Both mid laners, or assuming that Vlad, if Vlad is mid, but one mid laner taking Ignite, one taking Teleport, and we see we pretty much see the same summoner spells across the board. So in a 5v5 team fight, it's not going to change things all that much.
Yes, and Caitlyn and Misfortune both taking Barrier, so that's going to give them a little bit of extra survivability in these team fights. Not taking Cleanse, there is a good reason for that. We see it on the purple team. Their sort of CC comes in the forms of knock-ups, knockbacks, and pull towards. I'm not sure what to call that. Knock towards, knock closer. I don't know. Something like that. But we have Janna. You can't CC, or you can't cleanse out of Janna's Tornado, nor can you cleanse out of her ultimate. You can also not cleanse out of Nautilus's, Depth Charge. And you can't cleanse out of Diana's pull either. So there's a lot of CC on the red team, but at the same time, it's not CC that you can cleanse. And same with the blue team. We have a pull, we have a knock-up, and the only CC you can really cleanse is a fear and a snare at that point. So both carries going to take Barrier, so that was a fairly good idea. And it looks like both teams, they're poking around near this mid lane. I don't know if we're going to see an invade, but we could possibly see Nocturne starting with the red buff in this position, and Death by God spotted out with that ward right there. A pretty decent ward. I like early warding just to make sure that nothing fishy is going on, and Diana just trying to get down as much poke as she can.
Yeah, and we are going to see, it looks like, blue team choosing not to do this one-on-one engage. I think they're just going to back off and let them do their thing. It looks like for a second Misfortune and Blitzcrank were still going to do doubles, but as you know, they did fix the jungle, so that is not quite such an advantage anymore. So we are going to now start seeing some laning coming out from the first match of the day. Vertical Rise on the blue team over here, Team VR, going against Templique. Very, very, very sleek name.
Yeah, we see Blitzcrank still standing near the golems, and I don't know if he's just wanting to make sure that Caitlyn doesn't come in and steal them, but, you know, golems still does give you a small advantage. It's just not nearly as... It has a lot more risk nowadays because you missed 4 or 5 CS rather than just 1 or 2, and at the same time you still come into lane with a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of your health. So that's something that is heavily discouraged now that they revamped the spawn timers on golems. So we're not going to see anyone start doing that anytime soon. And in the bot lane, already a couple of trades. We see Blitzcrank, you know, he's taken that bush already, and I'm surprised we don't actually see more wards in either of these 2 bot lane bushes, because that's really where all the control will be in this bot lane. You want to make sure you keep eyes on Blitzcrank, and Blitzcrank wants to make sure he keeps eyes on everyone on his opponent's team.
Well, they do have the Caitlyn traps, so that is a step in the right direction. Blitzcrank is not going to be able to overextend, and Death by Gods, sorry. Taking a little bit of harass there by Diana, maybe a little bit too much. Maybe trying to bait her under the tower, I'm not quite sure. Nocturne was nearby, so could have just been wanting her to just full-on engage and ignite and blow everything, but, you know, who's to say.
And Nautilus looking for a top gank.
Oh, it looks like we are going to see an engagement here. Nautilus getting his stun. The hook goes out, lands on Jace. He is going to flash away. The gate speed not going to be enough, and he is going to evade first blood.
In the mid lane, Nocturne is here.
Yeah, we are seeing the blue team's jungle game want to get a gank too. Very nice flash, evading the fear just perfectly.
Alright, now that all that action is over, I want to revisit this sort of mid-lane matchup right here. We see Lux versus Diana. Now, Lux, her power is going to be in the fact that she can keep Diana at quite a long range. As we see right there, she can attack with her E, her Lucent Singularity, very, very long range, and get quite a bit of poke out onto Diana, basically discouraging her from going all in. On the other hand, if Diana doesn't take enough poke, then she's going to be able to all in Lux pretty easily, and Lux is a very squishy early game champion, or early game AP mid, so that's something that's going to play into Diana's favor, and she can get some of these trades off fairly easily. Then we saw Jace, he actually went to teleport back into the top lane. I'm not sure if that was actually the best idea. You know, it's got such a long cooldown, 300 seconds. It's about 5 minutes, and it's really, really huge cooldown, so he's not going to be able to gank bot for the next 5 minutes, so once he hits level 6, you know, there's not much action he can still pull on the other lanes of the map. He's going to really have to rely on dominating Vlad in lane.
Yeah, and he didn't even get a big item out of that either. He just wanted to get back to lane, I guess, to prevent them from pushing his tower, but his tower really wasn't that pushed in either, so... You know, I'd kind of have to agree with you. Maybe a little bit of a waste of a teleport there. I mean, Vlad doing a lot of work on this Jace in the top lane, or at least keeping him scared, I think, because Jace at this point is still stronger than the Vladimir. You know, Vladimir doesn't really have strength till later in the game, and Jace still stronger than him at this point. I think he's just got scared by the Nautilus gank, so Nautilus may be doing a better job than he thought, even though he missed that gank.
And he was going up there, maybe pulling off another gank, but he figures, alright, it's warded, so I'm going to actually go around through the Tri-Brush and force a lane gank, which is also going to be a very powerful style of gank. And that's really something that Jace did not quite ward yet. He has a ward in the river, but not in the enemy Tri. So we might be waiting for Vlad to let Jace push out, and Jace is going to actually have to push out in order for some of this action to happen, because there's no way Nautilus is going to be able to tower dive this early, and maybe it's a little bit of uncoordination right here.
Nocturne. Oh, Caitlyn gets hooked in the bot lane down here. Misfortune putting down the slow. It still is on her, but was shield and the brush is going to stop any action there. Up in the top lane, though, we are going to see Jace and Nocturne both be forced out, realizing that Nautilus still was there. Both junglers in the top lane there wanting to get a gank, and it looks like neither of them were quite successful.
Yeah, I don't really know if it was sort of the best communication on the red team's part right up there. With
Blitzcrank getting behind the people, getting the knock-up on Caitlyn, gonna be able to pull back the Janna. Unfortunately, Blitzcrank being taken down too low and even getting caught by the trap. Exhaust now on the Misfortune. We could see a first blood here. No, they're not gonna continue to chase. I guess they decided it wasn't safe enough.
Unfortunately, Misfortune, you know, she really thought she could win that 1v1, take Janna out right then and there, but there was just too much damage on Caitlyn, and Janna has so much survivability on her kit with the shield as well as a bunch of CC. You know, you can't really 1v1 or 1v2 both of those champions, so unfortunately she was forced to pop barrier in order to get out of that fight, but she does retain her flash, and that's something that will help her out in the future, whereas Caitlyn's flash was actually popped right there by the Blitzcrank. So it's a good play on Blitzcrank. However, Misfortune just went a little bit too far, thought she could secure the kill, and ended up, you know, bringing that engagement back to even ground rather than winning the engagement.
I remember one time there was a Caitlyn on the enemy team, and Nautilus was looking for a steal. I'm not sure what he was doing there. I was going to start saying something, but he was just creeping in the bush right there. Looks like they might try and go for a gang, but Nocturne is nearby, hitting a hook. Very, very nice job, but she is just too far under tower. But Lux does catch that binding. Nocturne's not going to follow. He is only level 4, so he doesn't really have the ultimate to follow yet.
Yeah, the junglers right now aren't really too heavy in power, so I was sort of wondering what exactly Nautilus was planning to do right there, and they did get a little bit of damage down onto Lux, but not nearly enough as they would have wanted, so she's just going to be able to potion up and be able to go ahead, keep CSing the lane a little bit. On the other hand, Diana, she's going to take her own blue buff, so that's going to help her out in lane quite a bit, throwing out Crescent Strikes, and that's really the main source of poke for Diana, and Lux just trying to steal that. That's a really fun part of Lux's ultimate, is basically when you see the enemy mid leave lane, you can probably think, alright, they're going for blue. Like, I just took my blue, theirs is up, so I'm going to try for this. Unfortunately, didn't really time it right. She did do it blind, so that would have been a good steal if she would have gotten it. And even though she already has the blue buff, keeping it out of Diana's hands is very, very nice, because Crescent Strike really, really hurts quite a bit.
Definitely does. And it's not that hard of ability to aim either. So she can definitely put down some hurt on Lux. Having Diana and Nautilus roam bot, we could even see a tower dive. You know, Diana is now she's level 8, so she's been level 6 for a while. Nautilus not quite so yet. But they're going to choose to back off as Lux and Nocturne following. Going to put some damage, pretty much tell the red team, hey, I know you're here, Templique, so just back off. And actually it looks like Lux going to get caught, forced to flash. Yeah, nothing big.
Yeah, Lux just losing a little bit too much to that time where she tried to poke out, and I don't know if Janna was going to do this anyway, but she actually pink warded Drag, and that might have been a thing where, you know, Lux let them know, alright, we have this warded, we see you there. So Janna was thinking, alright, they have it warded, I'm gonna go clear that ward right now. So they might have actually spelled the doom for their own ward, as well as Lux was actually forced to pop a flash there. So not the best engagement right there, and I wouldn't even say engagement, it was just them trying to poke out a little bit. But it looks like Nocturne might be getting caught a little bit in the spot lane. But he's
and actually Vladimir in the top lane flashing after the Jace. His ult is going to tick down for first blood, doing that damage tick in the bot lane. No kills happening yet, but we are going to see Diana taking a lot of damage. Diana going to be fighting that Lux, but forced to flash away, seeing that her buddy Nocturne right around the corner, and they could re-engage this here with Nautilus, but Diana still sitting pretty low. Lux getting caught down in CC, Diana jumping in! Lux not going to be able to pick up that kill though, and Nocturne just got a little bit too comfy, went to go farm the Wraiths, and let her mid lane die.
Unfortunately, Nocturne, as you said, still level 5. He's a little bit behind in terms of levels, doesn't have his ultimate. Couldn't really help out with that fight, and even if he could, let's be honest, there was so much damage over there for Diana. She was just able to close out that kill extremely quickly, and that's another reason why, Lux just didn't quite have the best positioning in this game. She could have followed Nocturne the safe route around, but instead she went towards the mid lane in that sort of space where Diana could follow up with it.
Blitzcrank getting a little bit of a goal down there. Perfect setup for a pull right under the tower, and Jana deciding to hit both of the bot members, or actually it's their choice to be hit. But Misfortune is going to retreat a little bit and get some healing off. She needs it. So in this case, going Rad Scythe's second item wasn't a bad choice, because right now Caitlyn, with that BF sword and Jana's shield, is just wreaking havoc on their health.
Yeah, right now she's got quite a bit of life steal.
Oh,
but
that was a good blitz hook. Here comes Nocturne right in the bot lane. Very, very good Jana ultimate, though. Completely negating the engagement, but there goes the exhaust. Nocturne, it looks like, oh no, they see the teleport. Blitzcrank getting caught right out there. Now they're turning to damage him, saying, we're going to get you. Exhaust go down on Nocturne. Don't know if they're going to look to dive the tower, but Misfortune barely getting away from that one.
And that's another example of how, Blitzcrank, if you take him down, if you poke him down to a low amount of health, then he can really be discouraged to fight.
Here comes Lux. Oh, Nautilus is level 6 now. He's going to get the ultimate. Nocturne is there. He's going to take the hook for the mid laner. But now, ooh, no, they're not going to dive yet. Nautilus still not confident enough, and probably smart, though, because Nocturne does have a fear, and Lux has a bind on about a 4-second cooldown, so she's going to probably have it up.
Yes, and there we go. But they went out, they take their wins and they get out. They don't want to force anything too much, and this really allows them to get a dragon. Maybe if they tower dove, even if they pick up both kills, they probably wouldn't be in any position to take this dragon. She's going to try to steal it, but unfortunately not quite enough damage. I think they saw the Lucent Singularity and said, all right, wait for it to run out. We can just afford to tank this a little bit longer, but she's going for Diana.
Very good binding. Not really going to have much to follow it up, as she did just ult dragon, but still, that was a good binding nonetheless. And we are going to see Diana backing off. That dragon giving the red team a big chunk of gold. We are seeing them back off. Caitlyn picking up that Bloodthirster. Diana, I lied. She's not going to back off. But Nautilus going to be picking up, looks like Mobo Boots and Ruby Crystal there. Going to be making him pretty damn scary when you see him hobbling, really, really fast into your lane. And Mobo Boots are very, very strong on a lot of junglers, especially CC ones, because they can just get close to you incredibly fast.
In the top lane, I just want to go back to how Jace, at this point, Vlad is extremely strong. He's level 10, he's got a lot of lifesteal, going to be able to negate a lot of the poke that Jace can do with his Shock Blast. So that's something where Vlad's going to start winning all of these trades, and he's going to be able to force more damage out onto Jace. And for Jace, I would really like to see something a little bit more in terms of tankiness, either some magic resist or health, because right now he's just going to be taking too much damage from Vladimir, and we already see that Shock Blast completely healed by Vladimir right now. He's got 10 levels. He's got quite a bit of sustain with his transfusion as well as Ties of Blood, so he's going to be winning every single one of these trades, going for all the CS in a wave, and right now Jace is just pushed under tower. He might be able to fight back out a little bit more if he had a little bit more tankiness.
Yeah, or maybe some sustain. I mean, Vlad's not really putting on the hurt, so maybe a Rad Scythe, not the worst item. I mean, Bloodthirster's pretty good on Jace. It really lends a lot to his sustainability in team fights, because he does put out a lot of damage, and blue team, following in the footsteps of the red team, deciding to take out their own little ward. And,
unfortunately, that's not quite as big as it was for the red team, because the red team was actually able to make a dragon play off of that, and because of that, we saw Lux, when she tried to steal, she was actually doing it blind. Now, her Lucent Singularity does give sight, but she just used it a little bit too early, so she couldn't actually use it to secure the drag instead. So unfortunately, that's something that didn't play to their favor. Nocturne getting spotted out by a ward right there. I think he knows, so he's just going towards the mid lane, where there might have been a dive, but the Ignite goes down on Diana, and they're just going to be discouraged.
Ooh, they might actually get a kill on Diana! Oh! Great turnaround there, at least belated some more aggression. Now it looks like we do have a fight bot lane. Janna gets hooked. Misfortune put way out of position, forced to blow barrier, and she is going to just run for her life. Not sure why she turned around to ult there, but that is going to cause her to die. And Blitzcrank not going to be picked up for the double kill, but this is going to allow them to put a lot of pain on the tower. Nocturne not really in any position to come stop them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Misfortune thought she had enough damage to turn on that, but she certainly could have lived if she would have just kept running, and there might have been a Caitlyn ult, but all in all, there would be two of them defending that tower, and they might not have actually lost it if she would have stayed behind. And once she was behind the tower, then go for the bullet time. Clear the minion wave, make sure your tower stands up, and that's something that they could have done. And now, I want to go back to the Lux a little bit. I think instead of the Fiendish Codex, she's rushing for Athene's, which normally is a pretty good idea, but in this case, I think she would benefit a little bit more from a Haunting Guise, something that would increase her magic
up in the top lane, we are going to see two ults blown immediately on this Jace, taking so much damage. He's going to be just blown up from that combination. You saw him just start to run around his tower. Really not going to be able to do anything, and this is actually going to spell a second early tower for the red team. They're going to get off to a nice lead with that dragon and 2 towers under their belt.
Yeah, Templique has actually been playing a really solid game so far. They've given up 0 kills, taken 5 of their own. No turrets down for them, but they've taken 2. So it's a really great game on their part. They've been able to, this isn't an all-out stomp as we see some games are, but they're just taking small advantages all around the map everywhere. The only person who hasn't died yet is Nocturne. So each one of their lanes is winning in their own way, and I think all of the CS, yes, every single person for the red team is ahead of their counterpart in the blue team in terms of CS, except for Blitzcrank and Janna, where Janna just slacking a little bit. Got another CS for the ward kill, however. She's only 1 behind now, but we see Diana. She
Come on,
might
Janna, you can close that gap. Janna can close the gap.
Yeah, we'll see if she can do that right now. Lux basically roaming her own jungle. They need... blue team really just needs to protect mid at this point, and red team, I can tell they want to make a play on the mid lane turret at this point. We see the bot lane, top lane turret, they're down. Janna is on her way mid. I think Caitlyn might be going that way as well, and she's trying to decide between going bot and mid. But we also see Vladimir and Nautilus grouping up mid, so they really want a team fight. They want to force a tower down. Lux, she's not doing all that much damage right there. We have a Negatron cloak for Diana, so that's going to be negating so much damage, and that's another reason why I think Haunting Guise would have been a better choice for Lux rather than rushing for the rest of the Unholy Grail. The Chalice was a great pickup, but the Haunting Guise just gives her more magic damage, magic penetration, as well as health, 3 things that would really benefit her in this laning phase at the moment. So we see red team,
right now,
they're just going to try to pick someone off.
Blitzcrank is definitely in the running to be picked off here. He's completely surrounded, using that to keep vision on her. We have every member of the red team closing in, and it looks Diana and Nautilus both missing their stuff, and Vladimir just says, "Thank you, I will take that." And I think that might even let them siege this tower. Wait, Diana teleporting top lane to stop Jace, and they're still going to be able to put quite a bit of damage on this tower. They do have that Caitlyn. Caitlyn getting caught out, though, and it looks like Misfortune does as well. Janna using that ultimate. Piltover Peacemaker going to be picking up the AD carry for the blue team. And now Vlad just tanking so many members. Nautilus knocking up the Lux. That will be a double kill for Caitlyn. Flashing out from under the tower, and now looks like that will be a double kill for Vladimir as well. They could even push one more turret. All they have is Blitzcrank and Jace to defend them right now. Things look bad for the blue team.
It really does. That was a great dive on the red team as well. They were switch tanking very, very well. We saw Janna, she was tanking the tower a little bit. Nautilus was tanking the tower at the end. Vlad was tanking for some of the point. So they really got out without anyone dying. If Janna were tanking the tower the entire time, she would have assuredly died down there. And even Nautilus, if he was tanking the tower the entire time, he might have also been taken down. So great idea to minimize losses, and they were really able to make more action happen. They were able to take out that tower and half of the inhibitor's health. Unfortunately, the inhibitor going to be respawning, well, not respawning, it's going to be healing up as time progresses. So they did take the inhibitor tower, so that's going to give them so much control in the bot lane. They might be looking towards mid lane next, because the mid lane tower, their outer tower is still up, and that would give them quite a bit of control. And after the mid lane tower goes down, they're in a position to go for Baron afterwards. So blue team just doing really well right now.
Yeah, and Diana putting a little bit of hurt on Jace too. Diana with that Abyssal Scepter now super strong, and And I just got a little giggle earlier because there were two wards down there for the red team. You know, I mean, those are very good wards, but very, very good dragon control right there. A lot of money wasted, but they have cash to spare. I mean, look at the gold advantage. They're about 10K ahead at 20 minutes. That is extremely good control of the game, and they're going to have to do a lot. Like, blue team is going to have some really good fights, do some really good picks with the Nocturne ult or the Lux or the Blitzcrank in order to really put themselves back in this game. Because as you can just see, look, well, I don't know what Caitlyn's doing with the double Bloodthirster. I was going to talk about how she is ahead.
She's having a lot of fun with being ahead with the double Bloodthirsters, so she's going to be able to sustain quite well, and she's got quite a bit of damage. So she's got a lot of power on the Piltover Peacemaker as well as her ace in the hole. That's really going to help her out, and without the attack speed, you know, those are going to end up doing more damage than a lot of her auto attacks. So she could be doing that, but I think they're just so far ahead that it doesn't matter too much at this point.
Looks like Diana did get caught out right there. She does have to flash away. Nautilus all going in the middle of the team, and here comes Vladimir. Blue team might have been caught out here thinking they could take the Nautilus. Taking so much damage, all of them are so low. One to buy a Karthus, but it looks like Vlad will pick up one. They are fighting directly under their tower. Triple kill for Vladimir so far. And it looks like he might get a penta here. If Jace can't get this, Vladimir can get a penta. Caitlyn steals it away, but does save Vladimir's life. A very, very commanding fight right there. I can't read the chat right now, but I'm sure it's something about scumbag Caitlyn or something. Either that or he's just a good sport and he says thank you. But that was impressive. Good job by Vladimir. Hoots Zelman.
Yeah, great play to basically follow up on the fact that they thought they could catch Diana out. You know, they basically used so many abilities to try that. And they used up the Blitzcrank grab. They used up snares from Lux. It was basically a perfect time for Vladimir to come in and do.
That was great.
Wow, Lux. A little bit of revenge from Lux right there as she lands a max range laser right on Vladimir, taking him down. I think he might be a little bit mad of that. He was 8-1. He got his first death of the game, but you know, they're not going to lose the game. But it would have been really nice to end out with 0 deaths for the entire game. I think Caitlyn still is in the running for that. We might be able to see her finish that off. But I'm actually not sure what Caitlyn's going to build next. You know, I'm thinking maybe a Phantom Dancer or something of the sort, but it looks like she's going for a Last Whisper, and, you know, Phantom Dancer would be the one that sort of makes the most sense, but at the same time, you know, she's building double Bloodthirsters. You know, she's not going for a build that makes sense, just trying to put out as much damage as possible, and Blitzcrank gets completely taken out right there really, really quickly, unfortunately getting caught out in the enemy, in his own jungle, actually, so just goes to show how much control that the red team has over the blue team.
You know, I'm going to feel stupid saying this, but the one advantage of building double Bloodthirsters, well, you know, don't do it, but the one advantage of is Bloodthirster gives the highest flat attack damage of any sword when it's fully stacked up. Like, there's no other single item that gives so much AD. So Caitlyn's Piltover Peacemaker and her ultimate are going to be super powerful. I mean,
let me actually check up on those numbers right now. We have Piltover Peacemaker. The base damage on that is 180. The physical damage is 400 extra physical damage on that. 457, so that's going to hit for about 600 damage. And once she gets the Last Whisper, that'll ignore the armor, or almost ignore the armor for whoever she's fighting against. And her ultimate right now is doing just about 1,000 base damage.
That is nasty. It's exactly 1,000. It's exactly 1,000 base.
Oh. Yeah, so unfortunately armor's going to get in the way, but at the same time right now we could see her take out half of Lux's health with a single ace in the hole right now, so she's really, really strong. So we're going to see the red team, they're going to start pushing the bottom lane, they're going to start pushing every lane actually, and they can really afford to do that. You know, they don't need to fight a straight up 5v5 team fight, they could fight a 4v5 and probably still win the team fight, so long as they have their damage dealers like Vlad as well as Caitlyn. You know, that's all they really need to finish off this game. And on top of that, you know, they're just trying to put pressure. The blue team, they're trying to push out as much as they can, keep the waves away from their base, and that's going to help them a little bit. But we don't want to see the blue team get a little bit too overzealous, you know, trying to take out Diana and basically ignore their bot lane inhibitor, while Nautilus is actually the one to split push that.
Yeah, Nautilus just hitting it with his anchor. Vladimir coming down for a little bit of help. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to stay there, though, as all 5 members are converging. But I do actually, we do have 4 members of each team there now, so we could see a team fight. Diana not there, but she does have that teleport up and running, so she could technically be in the fight. I wonder if blue team will realize this, but you know, she doesn't really have anything to teleport too close right now, so here we go, some teleport fodder. But one thing I want to notice is just by looking at the way, you know, blue team and red team conduct themselves, you can definitely tell that red team's a little bit higher level of players. And it looks like we're actually going to see an engagement here. Blitzcrank pulling Vladimir and silencing him. There goes the ultimate after the silence wears off. Nocturne diving on the back line, and we're going to see a Lux ult go out. Blitzcrank hasn't quite died yet. Very good Misfortune ult, but she is the last one up with any health in that fight. And it looks like, yeah, there's that tons of AD. Caitlyn just going to barrel down on Blitzcrank's face, going to be picking up a kill. And it looks like they could even push for the game here.
You know, there were a couple of moments throughout the entire game, but it was also showed a little bit in that last team fight, but not every Blitzcrank pull is a good Blitzcrank pull to initiate off of. And that one, you know, pulling Vlad into the middle of your team, he's extremely tanky, and now Jace is going to get caught out and burst it down extremely quickly right there.
I think he just gave up.
Yeah. That's very possible, and they're going for Mini Beast now as well, but the Nexus is going to blow up right before he gets killed. So that's a fairly nice game for the red team. Templique taking out that win, so we're going to see them face off against next. Late Night Yaoi, actually, is their next team that they're going to fight, and we're going to get into that game fairly soon. But going back to what I was just saying, Blitzcrank, you know, not every pull is a good pull. Right there, he pulled in Vladimir, who, you know, had a massive AoE damage to put down on the entirety of the team, and on top of that, you know, he can pull as soon as the knockup wears off, or he can pool just as soon as the knockup wears off from Blitzcrank, and that's something that's just going to be able to negate the rest of the burst damage on him while the rest of his team collapses. So unfortunately, Vlad giving up that death, that one death near the early, unfortunately not going for the straight up 9-0 and 7, but 9-1 and 7.
Yeah, and what I was saying earlier before the final team fight started, you could just see subtle nuances every time, you know, one would walk in a lane, or every time 2 of the players would trade, or, you know, just even like Jace was sitting by the tower when Diana was there, he was just walking around in circles when he could have been hitting Diana as she was hitting the minions. It's just a little bit of an example of, you know, you're missing opportunities to trade with your opponent or push them back, or because I have a feeling that they just literally were not threatened by the blue team, so they were able to be really confident after they had gained such a far early lead and take it home, and they weren't really afraid of a blue team comeback, because they might have noticed these nuances and been like, okay, we're not dealing with something there is to be threatened with. So hopefully, you know, if the blue team does ever come back to the tournaments, they will, you know, work on that just a little bit more, and it'll, you know, hopefully do